think Big Meech, like, told on somebody to get out, snitched, did anything extra?
No. Let me tell you why. Big Meech paperwork is public records. There is no proof that Big Meech said, hey, bust him, bust him, bust him. Big Meech, bro, I ain't gonna lie. That man got to that compound, and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get B.M.F, ENT on the left side of their neck, man.
Terrence Gangster Williams, who spent a considerable amount of time behind bars with Big Meech, is stepping up to clarify the facts. He's directly addressing the claims made by 50 Cent, who has insinuated that Meech cooperated with authorities. But that's only part of the story. According to Gangster, Meech held serious influence in prison, operating like a top-tier boss.
In there with a 27-year sentence based on Demetrius Flannery, as you all know as Big Meech, and Tammy Cowens, known in the paperwork as CS1.
Right.
Confidential source 1. So what Big Meech did was call a third-party cooperation.
You know, it's selective politics and it's selective who they're gonna call a rat or who they're not gonna call a rat in this industry. So we've been saying that since I've been.
Gangster asserts that Meech was deeply respected by the prison population. This insight has sparked conversations across the board, leading many to question 50 Cent's version of events. The key issue now is whether Meech truly collaborated with law enforcement, or if 50 Cent's frustration stems from Meech aligning with Rick Ross instead of him. Let's explore what Gangster revealed about Meech's time behind bars. A resurfaced interview featuring Terrence Gangster Williams, a well-known figure from New Orleans, sheds light on Meech's prison experience. In that conversation, Gangster explained how Meech essentially ran the facility, maintaining control with authority and composure.
Boss. Big Meech, bro, I ain't gonna lie. That man got to that compound, and man, he had some of the guys I would never think that would get B.M.F, ENT on the left side of their neck, man. It was tattooed, and he made it clear. He said, listen, I'm not giving nobody no connect. I'm not hooking nobody up with nothing. I'm not doing nothing when y'all go home. So, in other words, you know, people try to get with him just for, you know, the games, you know, for me to let it be known, look, I ain't got nothing, nobody. I'm in jail doing my bid, that's what it is, you know what I'm saying? So,
according to Gangster, inmates gravitated toward Meech naturally, not out of fear, but from genuine admiration. He didn't have to assert dominance, his presence commanded attention. Whenever Meech moved, people noticed.
Man, bro, I literally remember 25 guys after lunch will go to that rec yard with Big Meech. They're gonna take over the weight power, they're gonna work out, they're gonna hit the weights, do their little workout, and then after that, Big Meech gonna, whoever got the wine, he gonna bottle the wine up, whoever cooking food, he gonna bottle the food up, and he gonna sit in the cell or hang out and just talk war stories, just talk about on the streets, man. He was a very good, humble dude, man. Very humble.
Things took an unexpected turn when Gangster shared that Meech once had a real opportunity to escape and return to his previous wealthy lifestyle before federal agents tightened their grip. Yet, Meech chose to remain and serve his sentence with integrity. We'll unpack more about that near escape shortly. It's quite the story. But first, let's deal with the ongoing snitching allegations. Cent has long accused Meech of becoming an informant, largely relying on remarks from a former associate, Tammy Cowan. However, when Gangster addressed those claims, he dismissed them outright. He stated with conviction that he doesn't believe Meech ever turned on anyone. Gangster didn't hold back. He also criticized parts of the entertainment world, specifically targeting individuals like 50 Cent for being inconsistent with how they apply the snitch label. He highlighted the double standards, suggesting that many in the industry selectively choose whom to call out, often ignoring facts when convenient. To truly grasp how these rumors began, we need to revisit the story of B.M.F, the rise and eventual fall that led to Meech's 30-year sentence.
I couldn't do it. If I was for self, I could have did that. I could have grabbed a bunch of millions and been on somewhere where you can't be extradited. But that wasn't what I was out for. I've already played the legal game to the fullest. So now I was trying to legitimize me and the whole family. I mean, I was 37 years old when I got picked up, so I was slowing down anyway, because I was getting kind of tired. But when you the face of the family, that's the one thing that I was trying to learn. Even at 37 years old, even though I'm feeling old, I've been doing it so long, like I was getting kind of tired. You know me, I'm popping pills, smoking weed, drinking, and partying, freaking getting money, got whips going up and down the road. You know, I'm doing everything to try to make this family successful, and everything we do look big.
Here's where it gets even more compelling. Meech could have left the country and avoided prosecution entirely. With the wealth and means to escape, many would have taken that route. But Meech made a conscious decision to stay and face his legal consequences. That move earned him substantial respect, but also opened the door to criticism, especially from those now throwing around accusations. To understand this fully, we must look at the origins of the Black Mafia Family, B.M.F. Founded in 1985 in southwest Detroit by brothers Demetrius, Big Meech Flannery, and Terry Southwest T. Lee, B.M.F. was no ordinary operation. The Flannery brothers built strong ties at the highest levels, including direct connections with major Mexican cocaine distributors. They weren't just ambitious, they were well-positioned.
Meech chartered a commercial flight for hundreds of people, and Meech paid for everybody. It was a full-on party in the sky.
I've seen the movie Soul Plane. It was like Soul Plane.
Yeah.
Meech had everything set up. Everything was set up for us to party.
By the early 2000s, B.M.F. had evolved into a major power player. On the surface, their family-run car service projected success and legitimacy. But beneath that exterior, they maintained control over both the drug trade and the nightlife scene, showcasing an opulent lifestyle while concealing a vast narcotics network. At their height, they had more than 500 associates actively moving products nationwide.
Every place we stay at, LA, Atlanta, Detroit, we have homes, our own homes. We don't have to go in and rent. We got our own houses, we got our own cars, we got our own hoes, we got our own clothes. You know what I'm saying? And we can't be stopped. I don't see nobody stop. I don't see none to come after us either. None. Nobody will never do this again. There's this many niggas and as much money.
Meech and T didn't rise to power without struggle. They engaged in brutal turf wars, overcame rivals, and endured heavy losses. In the late 1980s, T was shot in his right eye, leaving him permanently blind on that side. Meech faced violence. He was shot twice, once in the neck near a Chinese restaurant in the 80s, and again in 2004 outside an Atlanta club, taking a bullet to the lower back. That second incident followed a dispute with Anthony Wolf Jones, who had been Diddy's bodyguard. While Meech walked away with minor injuries, Wolf and another man lost their lives. Despite operating in a dangerous world, B.M.F. maintained a lifestyle of extreme wealth.
Leaning on the counter laughing because we're drunk as hell. He's like, man, Yogi, my ass is burning. I'm like, what? He's like, man, I think I got shot in the ass. And sure enough,
the crew showed off their riches with 13 multi-million-dollar homes scattered across the U.S., a fleet of luxury vehicles, and wardrobes filled with high-end fashion. Meech had a personal deal with Jacob the jeweler, frequently seen wearing exclusive custom jewelry. He often stated that B.M.F. stood for brotherhood, loyalty, and unity. But as success grew, internal strain emerged. Disagreements between Meech and Southwest T intensified, with what began as small disputes turning into public confrontations. These weren't just arguments, they were significant clashes. Eventually, Meech accused T of stealing from the organization, signaling a serious breakdown in trust. By the time B.M.F. reached its peak, the relationship between the brothers had deteriorated beyond repair. T moved to Los Angeles to oversee ties with Mexican suppliers, while Meech stayed in Atlanta, continuing to lead in street operations and nightlife. This separation triggered instability. Crew members began choosing sides, and the internal division quickly accelerated the group's downfall.
U.S. Marshals say this man, one of Atlanta Police Department's top 10 most wanted and a member of an organized crime family, is now behind bars. U.S. Marshals tell me they arrested 37-year-old Ernest Dennis and 40-year-old Jonathan Manigo here outside of Buckhead Hotel. Both men, they say, are members of the so-called Black Mafia Family, or B.M.F.
Anyone tied to B.M.F. Typically has an extensive criminal history. So we consider them to be very violent.
Investigators say the organization B.M.F. is heavily involved in drug trafficking and has been in Atlanta at least since 2004. At that time, federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden inside.
By 2000, Meech was shifting toward the music scene. This led to the launch of B.M.F. Entertainment. His extravagant lifestyle and undeniable charisma made him a natural fit in hip-hop, a space where image and influence mattered. B.M.F. transformed from a street network into a major player in the rap industry. Major names Diddy, Jay-Z, T.I., and even 50 Cent associated with Meech, drawn to his image and influence. Meech's displays of wealth became legendary. He would show up to clubs with an entourage of 100, shut down VIP areas, and park twin Maybachs beside Jay-Z's ride, just to make a statement. One particularly well-known event was his jungle-themed birthday at Magic City, where he brought in 2 white tigers and placed them inside the club. It was excess on a level few had ever seen. Although the split between Meech and T helped the brand expand, it also deepened internal conflict. T became increasingly unhappy with Meech's flamboyance and vented about it to family and close contacts. What he didn't realize was that federal agents were secretly listening. Everything, he said, was being recorded. By the early 2000s, Meech was hosting massive parties and reportedly spending millions in a single night. But not everyone in the room was a supporter. Some were undercover agents quietly monitoring him. After a decade and a half of surveillance, involving federal authorities, local law enforcement, and the IRS, officials had compiled a mountain of evidence. This included 900 pages of wiretaps, testimonies, financial documents, and video surveillance. In 2005, they made their move. Both Meech and Southwest T were arrested on major drug and racketeering charges in a wide-scale operation. T was picked up in St. Louis, while Meech was taken into custody in Frisco, Texas. Alongside them, 150 members connected to B.M.F. were also arrested, effectively bringing an end to one of the most influential street organizations tied to hip-hop. Culture. Even before the authorities made their move, B.M.F. sensed that their reign was coming to an end. When Southwest T was first taken into custody by federal agents, Meech had a clear opportunity to flee. He would have crossed the border into Mexico and avoided capture. Instead, he decided to face the situation head-on. At first, Meech kept a low profile in Miami, but later relocated to Frisco, where law enforcement eventually tracked him down. When the crackdown began, it wasn't limited to just the Flannery brothers. Their father, sister, and even their partners were pulled into the investigation because their names were connected to assets and businesses used to launder B.M.F.'s earnings. Once the scrutiny intensified, no one close to them was left untouched. The DEA presented Meech and T with a deal: take full accountability and their families would be left alone. They accepted, remaining loyal to those around them. Both were charged under the Continuing Criminal Enterprise Statute and received 30-year prison sentences. T was granted early release in 2020 and allowed to serve the rest of his sentence under house arrest. Meech's request for compassionate release, however, was denied. After nearly 20 years, he was released in October 2024, though still subject to strict supervision. Even after serving time, B.M.F.'s influence remained strong. Their names continued to surface in music, fashion, and interviews. In 2010, the documentary B.M.F. The Rise and Fall of Big Meech and the Black Mafia Family brought renewed attention to their story. That same year, Rick Ross released the popular track B.M.F. Blowing Money Fast. By 2020, 50 Cent teamed up with Stars to produce a hit TV series based on the B.M.F. saga, casting Lil Meech to portray his father. The show was well received, and in 2022, Stars followed up with an 8-hour documentary detailing the group's journey. Shortly after Meech's release, a photo surfaced showing him with Rick Ross. The image went viral and sparked a conflict with 50 Cent. 50 accused Meech of cooperating with law enforcement and even threatened to end the B.M.F. series. Though Meech has mostly remained quiet, he has publicly denied being an informant. While 50 Cent claims to have documentation supporting his accusation, many doubt its credibility since the papers don't clearly identify Meech as a federal witness. Even if Tammy Cowan did work with authorities to help reduce Meech's sentence, that doesn't necessarily prove Meech was directly involved. Gangster Williams, who had a close relationship with Meech, firmly believes he stayed solid. What's your take on all this? Why do you think 50 is pushing this narrative now? And if those documents have been out for years, why was he fine producing a show about Meech before, but is now speaking out? Is this personal, or is there more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you're into true stories like this one, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Catch you in the next video.